My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving a school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person likes kids, generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
Minutes each. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system. We strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in Board Policy 0167.3. Do we have any public comment? Okay. All right. So that is the end of public comment. Procedural items. We're at the prior meeting minutes portion of the agenda. Are there any changes to the prior meeting minutes? No changes. Hearing no changes, the minutes will remain as posted, and we can move on to the additional procedural items. So the next is committee organization review. So I will go ahead and have, are there any nominations for the board curriculum chairperson?
I'd like to nominate Erica Moon Moore to be our chairman of the curriculum committee.
Okay,
And I would second that.
okay. So we have a second. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
So now that we've appointed a new chairperson, we can move on to the next procedural item on the agenda, and I'll pass that over to Erica.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I'm super excited to lead curriculum again. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our our newest board member. So welcome to the curriculum committee, and also Flanoy. This is your first time serving on the curriculum committee, so
Absolutely.
welcome, welcome, welcome. So, okay, so we are at the district course catalog. So Miss Heidi.
Yeah, so if you notice, we added a few more because we're in the middle of semester changes. We just started a new semester. The ones you see up there are NMC. Those are related to our dual enrollment and early middle college courses that are offered. So you'll see those updates on this page and the next. And just looking for approval to have them added. Students are taking these this semester.
And again, these are just for middle,
NMC courses, yep.
just the NMC courses. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on adding those?
This is the coding and game design and those ones.
Yep.
Those are coming. Yep. These are.
Nope, this is just the NMC at this point.
And this is for this year's course catalog. So we're gonna be talking about next year's course catalog additions next.
So this is for kids to be able to take second semester in the current year we're in. NMC courses, they have to be in our guide.
Got it, thank you.
May I ask a question? Are these in person or are these online?
That is probably a good question, because I think some of them are hybrid, so they might be 50-50, some are in person. But I don't think any of those are solely virtual classes.
Okay, so no objection. We'll move those NMC dual enrollment updates to the consent calendar for the full board.
I will mention, even if they were in that element by state law, we have no choice. We have to allow students to take up to 2 of any online class that is offered by state law.
Oh, I wouldn't have dissented. It's
No, just so you
pure
know, with it,
vulgar
yeah.
curiosity.
Yep, no worries, no worries.
Now, do you move on to the new right now?
Yes.
And you're gonna do that right now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So we have.
Right now.
It'd be a
Right
little-
now.
It'd be a little confusing, because these are for next year, but I mean, we're
Okay.
taking them through the process right now.
So these next 4 courses are classes that we are asking for approval for the next school year. And the reason why we seek approval now is that kids have the opportunity to begin enrolling now for courses next year. So the next slides that you'll see that there are 3 high school courses and 1 middle school course that are being requested. So the first 3, one is the applied algebra course, a coding course, and a sports medicine course. And then the 4th course is for a middle school class in digital photography and photo editing. So those would be new courses that would be going into effect next school year that we're seeking approval for with the board now.
And the reason these come to the curriculum committee, these are requested by students. Is that correct? Or is this being requested by
A little
It's a
bit of
combo.
both.
a little bit of both?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So there's either a demand or a need that has been perceived at the site level, and the classes can be suggested in a variety of ways. The course proposal is then turned over to usually the department leads who review them, make changes, and then bring that forward to this committee for you to also review.
Excellent.
Under the sports medicine, which sounds, wish we had had this when I was going through school. Sounds like a great opportunity. Students required to do practicum hours outside of the school day and travel to athletic events may be required. So, and I noticed that it's 9th through 12th grade. So ninth graders don't usually drive. Do we provide transportation, or will that be on the student?
Yeah, usually they go with the kids on the bus, like they'd be able to go with the kids on the bus.
With the team.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Gotcha.
working with the athletic trainer. You know, that's the process we're working through now as a teacher, and so they'll be working directly with that professional, and we'll be going with the team doing a away event as assistant with the athletic trainer.
Okay.
Who would teach that? What level of training?
Go ahead.
So, okay, so typically, this would be a CTE person, so that means they were within business and industry first to teach the applied application of it. So it will be a career and technical education course offered within the 2 high schools. So the person we think will be teaching it next year is Amy Ream, who has been doing athletic training for how many years? I don't even know. Jesse, Joe, maybe you know.
She's been the athletic trainer at Central for over 25 years.
Yeah. And so she used to teach this course, believe it or not, and in spending some time with her, she taught this course many, many years ago before they eliminated the types of certification for it, and then they have since brought it back. So we're excited to be able to offer that to students as an additional opportunity with some really hands-on, relevant, applied training, which is, you know, really what we hope to get all our students. So how can we give them those authentic experiences that are hands-on and really what they would do if they were working in the field. So excited to do that, excited about this course for next year.
It's interesting, these, especially this second one, the sports medicine pilot, it reminds me of the Kettle Moraine, right? That
Yes.
Those kids are out in school or out in the community and taking their education and applying it. And then, you know, even if they're gonna do volunteer work or anything like that, it's kind of already put into that channel. So that's super interesting. Why is it say it's a pilot? Is it just to see kind of how?
Yep, test it out for the first year, see how it goes, look at interest. I suspect there'll be quite a bit of interest, but we don't know that for sure. And just really, whenever we start something like this that's brand new, we usually label it as a pilot for just that first run through, just to see if it's something we want to continue or not. But very excited about this. The students have opportunities for different certifications in CPR as well. So that's another benefit of being able to offer those hands-on learning experiences.
Can they take it more than once?
Yes, they can take it more. There'll be a sequence of first semester and second semester. Yep.
Can they go all the way up from 9th through 12th grade with it?
That would probably be unlikely unless the course builds from that. So you could see in, you know, subsequent years, the request to offer an advanced sports medicine if we think that that's something that is in line with the curriculum that the students would benefit from. So,
Because you could see if somebody started as a 9th grader, but they couldn't continue their skills, that they really wouldn't get benefit in the long range. It would be a memory challenge.
it
as
might be a
opposed-
memory if they
Right.
took it as a 9th grader.
Yeah.
They'd still have their certifications, but yeah, that's a good question, and usually it's based on interest and kind of what we think the next steps in curriculum would be.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
The middle school photography class, is that 1 semester or 2 semesters?
That is a 1-semester class. Students can take it multiple time, is my understanding though. So they could take it multiple times.
Can board members take it?
Yeah, that would be a fun one for everyone to take, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I took something
New-
like this
new
in
skills
high
all the
school.
time.
It was awesome. It was great.
The other one that's on there that one of them that we haven't touched on yet is the Algebra 1 Applied Concepts. We've been doing, and it is actually in line with our work that when we visited Kettle Moraine as well. So it's really an applied application of algebra concepts in a manufacturing lab. So like, how do we actually teach mathematical and algebraic concepts using conceptual learning and hands-on activities with students in class. So different way to look at the learning for applied algebra, and we're excited to see where that goes as well.
So that was my question. So this can take the place of Algebra 1?
This would be an Algebra 1 credit, yes. Has additional component of a hands-on learning application-based algebra.
It'd be fun if you did that in geometry as well.
There is, yep.
That's what we'll, next year, remember that.
Yes, that's the next one in the sequence,
Gotcha.
Put the
yes.
kids out on a construction site, man,
Yeah.
they could do geometry all day.
I know, and they can't find enough still. I mean,
Yeah, that's
It'll
great.
actually, help a lot.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Are we gonna add this to the consent catalog? The consent calendar, right? It'll go right to consent. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that to the consent calendar, if there's no objections. And, okay, done with procedural items. So moving on to informational items. First item is the elementary math pilot update. Jessie, welcome, Jessie.
Thanks. So this is really just an opportunity for me to sort of update board curriculum on where we are with our elementary math pilot that we have going on this year. So I outlined on this one slide here, sort of what do we value in our mathematics instruction for you, so you can kind of take a gander at that. Keep in mind, our elementary math curriculum does go through 6th grade, because our TAG students do receive all the way through 6th grade instruction. We also have found it really beneficial for students who may be qualified for that program, but chose to not leave their home elementary school, that we provide that 6th grade opportunity to students so they can be extended. So it is important that our curriculum goes from K to 6th grade, if you're wondering, why does she say 6th grade? When we're looking at adopting a program and, spending that money and making that investment in time too, we're really looking for something that not only has a really strong tier 1 instruction, 90 minutes a day is about what our students receive every day in the elementary level for math instruction. But we're also really looking for a program that has the tier 2 and tier 3 supports too, that differentiation piece for our students who need that. You'll hear us talk a lot in math about procedural fluency, right? Doing the skills, that's kind of what you would think about, like the operations, the 4 basic operations are what we hope to master by the end of 5th grade in our standards. And then also that conceptual pieces. So how do I know which operation I'm gonna choose? How do I apply this operation, this context? What does this number mean to me in this situation? So we always work to balance both the procedural fluency and the conceptual understanding of math. And then because we have such great access to Chromebooks and the ability for us to organize data for teachers, we do look for a program that has some type of online presence, really trying to streamline what adaptive practice potentially we put in front of students. We've seen in the past that with 11 elementary schools, sometimes a building will go one way for a fluency practice product and another way somewhere else and another way somewhere else. And so what we've learned is it makes more sense for us as a district to buy a comprehensive program that includes that in there too. It's a nice way that kids can get practice at their level, and some of those programs are very adept at that. So also we love programs that have instructional tools for our teachers to use and assessments built in too. Currently, we as a district adopted Math Expressions, and we had a 6-year contract with that. So that contract meant that we have consumables in elementary, so those would show up at our buildings every summer for kids to use. And that contract expired on June 2021, and you might be thinking, wait a minute, we just weren't in a place, I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but I'm going to blame this a little bit on it, for us to pilot math curriculum last year. It was just, there was too much up in the air as to what our instruction was going to look like every day with kids. And so we did a 1-year contract for Math Expressions last year to really not put that ball in the air with everything else that our teachers were juggling last year. But last year we did look at some of the schools around the state that are similar to ours in achievement and what are they using. We read some research of best practice. We visited some schools too, and we piloted, we call them soft pilots of 5 different programs. And then between the teachers who did those soft pilots and our leadership team, we landed on into math as our pilot for this year. So this year, we have 5 of our elementary schools using math expressions and 5 of our elementary schools using into math. Montessori uses a different curriculum altogether for their math instruction. So the data that we've collected, the first round of our teacher survey is what's sitting in front of you, and it's also linked, or I think Kelly, it's linked there in the PowerPoint. I think Kelly printed it too for you. We use that. We have a survey too that we'll send out to parents just to get some feedback from where they are too. We look at our student achievement, both growth and sort of growth within where kids started the year at, and then we also look at cost proposals. So that first page of that teacher feedback sort of gives you some background on where we are and what we're gonna use to evaluate the program. We had nice participation from our teachers. When you look at, we had 95 teachers, which is over 65% of all of our elementary classrooms, gave us some feedback on the survey, and you can see that we hit every building that in our elementary. We really wanted to try to get a good representation. So I broke it down there for you by grade level and then by what program they were using. Not surprising that the teachers who are piloting that into math wanted to give feedback a little bit more than those that were using the math expressions. So just really like the high level stuff that our team is always really interested in is just overall teacher satisfaction with the curriculum and then the supplementation. So one thing that we've learned is that when teachers supplement is when the variability in the classroom can get really wide for us across the district. And the question with supplementation that I always have is this in addition to what your Tier 1 curriculum is providing, or is this in replace of, right? Because that's like 2 different answers as to what the kid's experience is gonna look like. Plus, if we're gonna spend a lot of money on curriculum and then our teachers are gonna go out there and not use it and use other things, it's probably not a good investment by our funds too. So those why I put those 2 kind of questions top and center for you. And then I gave you a high level view of some of the other questions on the next 2 pages. Overall, you kind of flip through it and you see that math expressions is sort of leading the charge in almost every area from this first round of the teacher survey. I'm interested, we do this next round in, I want to say late March is when we scheduled it, or early April. It'll be interesting as they've spent a little more time with the product to see if their feelings have grown a little bit or if they stay similar to where they are in here. The one piece that our teachers really are not loving with math expressions and have not for 6 years is the online platform. It's called Think Central. That's what they use. We were told that Think Central was sunsetting, and then on Friday, I got a curveball thrown at me that it's not, and that Math Expressions is moving to a different branch of the company. It's moving out of the HMH branch, so that's gonna have some implications on what the future of Math Expressions is gonna look like. So it's interesting, because I would have said, like, if you asked me on Thursday, and if you ask our math leaders, like the data right now is trending for us staying with Math Expressions for another contract, but we got some news sort of late on Friday afternoon that might change some of that landscape for us about what that's gonna look like. But our goal is that you'll see me again or hear from one of these guys about, hey, here's where we are with the rest of the data points they've collected, and here's what the math team recommends for a multi-year adoption by June at the very latest. I would love to get that recommendation to you guys sooner. There is a little bit of product shortages that I'm worried about. And I want to get ahead of this. Last October, we were still kind of scrambling to get enough supplies into classrooms, and I don't want to do that again. So I want to try to make sure we place our order in a timely manner, but not rush the process either, right? It's like a balance between the 2. So it's kind of a lot of information. So what questions do you guys have for me? Beth?
You said that you had a parent survey as well.
We have not given that out yet. We will be
Okay.
giving that out, and I will get the results to you guys on that too. Yep.
And I think that's good, because I think sometimes the parent being able to reinforce doing the homework and understanding how the homework should be done is really a key to success in some households.
Absolutely, absolutely. And whatever curriculum we use, making sure that what goes home is something that you're spot on. The parent is just reinforcing, they're not the teacher, right? The teacher, the one that has the background in instructional strategies, is our individual that we've hired in the classroom. But the parent understanding how to read the homework and how to support the kid and how to reinforce it is critical. We can't purchase a product that wouldn't have that piece to it, yeah.
But also, I think understanding some of the methodology is important.
Okay.
Because it really is kind of bothersome if a parent says, I don't understand how you got to this. And for the life of me, I've been doing math successfully in what I do every day. And so there begins to be a disconnect. So hopefully somehow that can also be queried out in your survey.
Yeah, yep,
Practicality all the way around.
yep.
Lenoy, do you have any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
I have just a couple. So when you rolled out, and this is just sort of a curiosity question, but when you rolled out the Into Math pilot, are you surprised to kind of see some of the results? Did you think that, you know,
So we did a week of on-site coaching in the fall, and where we have somebody from the company come, and the building principals and the instructional coach work a schedule, and I got to come to 5 of the sites and sit and listen to the teachers. A couple things. The things what they put in front of students in the Into Math is hard. It's harder than it's more rigorous. It's at a more academic level than math expressions, and that was a little bit of a shift for some of our teachers. Certain grade levels felt that more than other grade levels. Like kindergarten actually felt like math expressions was more academically rigorous than, but the other big piece that we heard from teachers was the amount of reading. The Into Math has, all the way through their program, they have what's called the 3 reads strategy, which is actually great for explicit instruction and all that lineup. But that's not typical of most math curriculum, and the teachers definitely struggled with that, with the amount of reading that their kids had to do, especially in their younger grade levels. One of the teachers at Willow Hill, she was so great, I think it was a 1st grade teacher, she said, well, I mean, sometimes, or in the past, we waited until the end of the year to put like word problems and story problems in front of kids, and they just struggled with it and had never had enough time to really make sense of it. Maybe because we're putting them in front of kids sooner in the year, they'll have time to process this, and maybe by the end of the year, they'll actually be more successful at understanding what these story problems look like. Which is an interesting, we say a lot in math that mastery is built by repeat exposure over time. 3rd grade's a great look into that. We teach, that's when multiplication starts, is in 3rd grade, and we want that to be in the 1st unit and not the 5th unit, because we want the kids to get introduced to the concept and have the whole year to practice it and develop mastery. So I wasn't surprised based on the site visits that it came back. I was a little bit surprised on some of the comments that people really, really liked it or really, really didn't, how extreme that was. Wasn't overall, I was not shocked that it scored lower though.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, would you say, and again, I'm not a teacher, but because there is more rigor involved, that can be more difficult in a...
More difficult for everyone, more difficult for the student, more difficult for the teacher,
okay.
Less independence, right? They definitely were feeling like their students weren't as independent in the classwork than they were in prior years.
Interesting.
Be interesting to see a couple of examples. This is how this was explained with this program.
Yeah,
This is how that would be kind of
I can
fun.
snip you guys out examples, especially when we get towards the end, if you want to see sort of the difference between the 2 curriculums. It's not a problem.
Cool.
It sounds though like you would recommend to stay with math expressions pending this online, or no?
The ball that I got
I
thrown
know
on Friday
Friday.
is a little complicated. So the company that owns HMH, they have a parent company, right? It's all kind of, and they just bought NWA, which is actually super exciting because eventually I see the data flowing between the 2, which is like, that helps out. I don't love that they're gonna move math expressions out of HMH and into the Hyman ream, because the online platform, the ed platform, which is what Into Math, is awesome. It's super user friendly. it organizes materials, teachers and students, it's just easy to use. And I'm really bummed that it's not moving to that platform. So we gotta think about that.
Do you think there would be any, and this is a total hypothetical, so, whatever, but there would be any way that you would continue math expressions for another year and even pilot another program, or no? That you definitely. Lot of what ifs.
I think that phone call on Friday afternoon really threw a curveball.
Really did,
know,
it really threw me
everything.
for a loop, but, I would like to not, because it's just tough. It's like,
Yeah.
there's no curriculum or program that's gonna be like the silver magic bullet that's gonna fix it all, right? And the longer we sort of like kick the can down the road, like knowing that like last year we were on sort of a 1-year contract, this year we're on a pilot contract. I know at some point we have to look at ELA and where that is, and there's some timing issues with, you don't wanna do an adoption of math and ELA really close together. It's really tough for our teachers and for our, kids, for all of us as a system to stay focused on good teaching and learning when we're trying to make 2 major curriculum shifts. So I really would like to say we'll have enough information by the end of this year to make a recommendation. I also know it's a big recommendation to do a multi-year adoption for, math is a pretty big discipline, goes all the way through 12th grade, so.
Yeah, fund them.
What I appreciate is that you're getting feedback from your teachers and you're really listening to how the kids are responding and what the teachers, how the curriculum is fitting our needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great, thanks for laying out all the questions too and where they kind of fell. I think that's really helpful for us, so thank you. Okay, if any other questions with the math pilot? No, okay, then we'll move on to academic communities. So Jesse and Joe.
Okay. So you guys have that sheet there that kind of outlines that. But all of our TCAPS middle schools and high schools are just kicking off second semester of this school year. But this is where all the background work we've been doing to build the next school year starts to become kind of public as well. So over the next month, we talk with our high school and our middle school students about course options for next year, coding and game design, some of the new things you guys approved today. And so it's a good time to kind of draw attention to some of the things that we had this year that we're continuing to approve for next year, and a few of the adjustments that students will see too. So one item we want to draw attention to this time of year is the academic communities. And this really did come out of the visit last February to Kettle Moraine. There had been some ideas kind of bouncing around here. And then seeing a few things at Kettle Moraine helped us kind of put it together, build that over last spring and through the summer. And so the new ones and this is the same at both high schools at Central and West, the new communities this year have been the arts, which kind of encompasses our performing arts and visual arts. Eric Wangeman kind of oversees that at West, and Wendy Wolfschlarf at Central. The global community, which brings together your language arts, world language, history, the other social studies, government, those things. And then STEM, which is what we're calling our traditional Scimatech we've had at both high schools. But we're trying to really make students aware of not just the Scimatech options for those interested in tech and engineering, but also the health science options. So the goal with all these communities, it's not just about courses you take, it's about connecting those courses outside of the school day through some authentic experiences, getting folks from the community and those industries in, helping students connect with like the pre-career pieces of those industries and getting a better idea if that's what they really want to go into or not. So we've been building those throughout this year when we're all together in June at Interlochen, handing out diplomas to the class of 2023. There'll be students getting diplomas with arts designations on them this year for the first time in TCAPS. There'll be students getting diplomas with STEM designations and global designations, and that will continue to grow every year. So we want people to be aware that those community options are there. We have students in all 3 communities at all 3 grade levels at both high schools this year, and I'm sure we'll continue to see that grow. But the other thing we want people to know too is when we're talking about course requests in February, all students need to do during that course request process, students and parents, they should be conversing with their parents, is pick the courses in the area they're interested in. So if they're tied into that global community, pick the AP offerings in language arts, pick the high-level world language, pick the AP offerings in social studies. If you're into STEM and you're more into that tech side, we have a really great like scaffolded sequence of tech offerings they can take. If they're more into the health sciences side, we have some great offerings there. But all they need to do at this point is pick those high-level offerings in the area they're in, and it's more fluid, kind of towards the end and beginning of each semester of when kids can join the community itself, because that kind of ties it all together and wraps around it. So it's not something they have to interview for, opt into by the beginning of freshman year. Kids wanted things that were more customizable and flexible as they narrow their interest as they go through high school, so they can join at lots of different times. And then kind of related to that, and one's kind of beyond that, we have a couple of integrated programs that we'll be kind of pushing out to kids when we get more into April. I think Jesse's going to describe those a little bit.
Sure, and I'll just say, one of the things that's been really cool in the academic communities is, you know, students can be a member of multiple ones, right? We've got students who are like very talented in the arts, but also they're very into French or world language or Model UN, and so they're in both of those, and those are great ways to connect our kids to opportunities. And also, we sometimes will have students who are in certain athletics or robotics or something that has sort of a season to it. And so what's been nice about our communities is our advisors have been able to offer these experiences kind of throughout the whole year. And yep, maybe I'm a bowler and I'm in season right now and I'm going at that and I'm focused on that. I might not be as attending all the meetings. It's not a requirement that I come to all, but I know in the spring when I have more time as a student, I can now plug back into the community again and have that piece. It's been really nice to offer some flexibility without like a lot of barriers.
Yeah, scripting.
And so the schedule is flexible to allow?
Yeah, for that, because sometimes they meet before school, sometimes they meet after school. The communities aren't an hour during the day, so it doesn't take like that like second hour or something like that. And then when you look at like what classes they need, we tried to make sort of a menu, like 4 required classes, but then we gave options for kids within there, right? And so maybe I'm a kid who really wants to do more of that biology and anatomy and physiology and biomedical side versus that chemistry and that sort of academic area there. So we tried to provide just more flexibility, so it wasn't like, hey, if you're in STEM, you all have to take these classes, which then track these kids and then also like kind of traps them at the same time of tracking them, and doesn't provide for kids to kind of have a bigger experience within those. So still working on that. We are auditing transcripts for our seniors. I'm sure Joe's advisors are doing kind of the same thing right now for who's going to get those designations. And I would say we're probably going to give over 12 in each of those other 2 areas. STEM has always kind of existed underneath that Simultech umbrella. So excited to see that. I think it's really cool.
So that was part of a question. It was the tracking. So getting any pushback from that or?
Well, it's not tracking in the sense that we may have thought of it historically, where you're getting on a track, and it's the fear with tracking is always that it's a one-way track, right?
Well,
there's
then
not options
and
for
kind
kids
of
to get on.
labels.
Yeah, and there's not options for kids to get off. This is very flexible. I mean, because that's the thing we've certainly seen over a very long time in TCAPS is a big number of our students don't want to be locked into certain things, right? They mix and match every way possible. Like Jesse said, the music kid who's also like our best science and math kid, right? Or the global kid who's also, very, very into sports, right? It might take them on a lot of travel in the winter if they're a ski kid or something like that. So it's very customizable, and we've seen more that instead of just a script of 9th grade, you have to take this, 10th grade, you have to take this, which is more of what we think of traditionally with tracking. It's like over your career, you're going to want to hit, this number of things, all of which easily fall within our 22 credit graduation requirement. So you can mix and match that a lot of different ways. And then the community piece becomes the through line that connects all those. So when we hand a kid a STEM designation diploma in June, 10 kids that get that may have done it 9 different ways, right? But they all met that requirement as they went through in a different combination.
And we're still able to be in music. What I would tell you, Fenoy, is kind of know where you're thinking. So like when we had the chance to go see Kettle Moraine, we felt that we're a little bit tracked. And so I think our team brought that back and said, we want kids to have similar opportunity, but not to be locked in where they can't be in choir or they can't be in this. And so I think they've done a great job in designing to create some flexibility, a little bit more than we've even had, to allow kids to have, to do this and not only have this only in that track.
Right, and also, not just that, if they're in the STEM community, but they make, say, wind ensemble, they'll be able to, it's not just that they're in band, but they made the top band.
Right,
So,
right.
and I'm sure, and that's a singleton.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're
there's
trying
the
to do, because
flexibility.
naturally, there's gonna be things like that are singletons. We found some other ways where kids can get maybe their math option 2 or 3 different periods of the day, instead of
Okay.
only offering that trig pre-calc or AP trig pre-calc next year that kids have. One period, we have ways they can get that a couple of different times, and then these integrated programs we're gonna have next year are another way to kind of combine 2 or 3 credits a student might need into a smaller amount of time to increase that flexibility in their schedule.
Yeah, so the academic communities, those are up and running at graduation. Joe's right, where we will be handing out diplomas, and we'll have a spot in our program to recognize the students who have demonstrated a depth understanding in those different areas. The integrated programming, this is more like hours during the actual school day. And one of the things that we've just seen is that some of our kids want to do a lot, right? And how do we offer the ability to do that? And I think when we went on that visit, we learned or pushed ourselves a little bit to think about how do we integrate multiple disciplines within a chunk of time to be able to really, both of these integrated programs, they take 3 classes typically taught in 3 class periods, and they push them into 2 class periods. And so what that does for our students is it frees them up for another elective. So I can be a kid who's really into STEM, and whether that be AP Computer Science, and I can be in Wind Ensemble, and I have enough room in my schedule to make that happen, right? Before we would say, that's really cool, now you're gonna have to choose because it's a 6-period day.
Right.
and
Right.
One's gotta go, right? And now we can say, that's really cool. You can get that experience in this integrated program. So this year we ran, we both sort of, I'll say piloted it at the 9th grade with our Simultech as we put the honors biology. This year we did the honors math, and then we did that STEM research component. And again, those 3 classes typically taught in 3 hours, we taught them in 2 hours instead. One of the things that we learned after debriefing with our staff and then talking to our kids, we did a survey with all of our kids in that program, is the math was really, really hard because those kids are at 2 different levels in math. Some of those kids are in geometry, some of those kids are in honors algebra 2, and putting that in the one block together was really hard for kids.
They're
really
all
hard.
advanced.
They're all
advanced
advanced,
math
yep.
kids, but advanced over such a spread that trying to have them all in the same class at the same time,
Be so
it was hard to push them all along.
And so what we tried to do was we tried to teach the honors algebra 2 and and then offer the geometry online. And the problem was those were our students who weren't as strong and advanced as math are now taking not 3 credits over 2 periods, but 4 credits. And so we did have a little bit of attrition at Central because the kids just said, Uncle, I give up. I can't do it anymore. And we talked to the teachers and they said it's just really hard when the kids just haven't had that large of a span as to where their math needs are at. So we did a lot of research and thinking and talking and conversations to teachers and kids and with John and this team too. And what we landed on was for this next year to stay with that combo. We think kids want that freedom and flexibility, but to put the English in there instead of the math. And so the 9th grade experience will be the honors biology, honors English, and the introduction to STEM. That 10th grade experience is honors chemistry, honors English, and that kind of STEM advanced research course.
And so they'll still get more than 2 credits in each of those 2-period blocks, but they'll separately take their math class in a single period somewhere else so they can take the math class that's appropriate for them and kind of keep working down the math sequence each year.
And I'm sure in all of your discussions and planning and that the counselors are
Yes.
being brought along and they understand all of the options for all of the, for all the students, you know, that they can help navigate this. And because, you know, like you spoke earlier, that parents and students should be having these conversations, because this can get complicated.
It can, yes. And so, and we'll talk about how we're gonna do sign up. Joe and I have talked a lot about that, and in a second. The other integrated program that we piloted this year at Central, and it's been just phenomenal, has been, we call it TIE, and it stands for Trojan Integrated Experience. And it is for our students who typically are not academically motivated, as far as like, I just like to sit in class and read textbooks, and they're just that's not the way they motivate and the way they connect to learning. They're great kids, but they're more interested in getting out in the community. They're more interested in hands-on learning. They're more interested in some project-based stuff. And so what we did at the 9th grade level is we have our biology, so it's a regular level biology. Our US history is the freshman social studies requirement. And then our ELA 9, and we took, those are typically 3 standalone classes. And again, we put those 3 together in a 2-hour block with 3 teachers. And we have about, we moved a few kids in and out at semester, but we have almost 50 kids in there. We also have a co-teacher in there too. We have some IEP needs in there. And it has been awesome to watch that group come together as a community. We started a partnership with Norte, so I've got a group that walk over to Norte. John came over for a visit, and they were doing a unit where they walked over to the local cemetery, and it was a unit that was both a science unit and a history unit, and it was on life expectancy and some diseases and populations at certain times, and so they were checking tombstones, and they were coming back to do research about it. All the writing component is put in there. I mean, they met as a team. I sort of promised them certain days to let them plan. That's the biggest piece, is giving the adults time to plan on what this is gonna look like. And it was like, I almost cried because our ELA teacher was like, you can do writing and communication and everything. I can do it over here. Oh, now we're looking at informational text. Great, we're gonna take that. I've got a strategy for that. And it was like, and then with those kids, we've done a lot of restorative circle stuff too, as far as like just some social emotional education on them too, as to what does it mean to be a student? How do you organize yourself? How do you set goals? What are possible goals for you? So we're looking to expand that, and these guys are gonna pick that up next year at the freshman level.
That's why we pilot stuff.
That's why we pilot
Sometimes
stuff.
we find stuff we wanna do at scale, sometimes
we don't.
Sometimes we don't, but this was one that works, so. we're gonna
Yeah,
add it too.
and then we're thinking about piloting a 10th grade run of this. We're not sure what that would look like. We're just in conversations about whether, we have the student interest. It's crazy. I've actually gotten more parent feedback from this block of students than I have from my simultech. I had a mom call me the other day and say her daughter has never come home and been this excited about school and feeling like she has a place where she belongs. And I was like,
Good.
yes, like that's the goal. It does also free those kids up for another elective too, right? And so they're gonna meet their graduation requirements. Some of those kids for their elective, we're putting them in like a study hall, a SOAR, an advisory to help organize themselves. But some of those kids, that guarantees them an art class, that guarantees them a music class, that guarantees them a physical education or a weights class, like, which is what they need during their day too, and so we've actually, that program grew at semester. I had more kids that wanted to get into it. We had a few kids that it wasn't the right fit for them, and where their future goals were, and we moved them out, but, we're really excited, and the teachers they're crushing it, so it's been really fun.
So going back to your question with the counselors, the
Yes.
counselors understand this very well, but ton of information there.
Right.
All families need to do is just kind of look at what courses their kids want to take and request the individual courses. So we're not going to have like these blocks on the course request, because our plan is for kids to do their course request kind of through the month of February like they usually do. And then we'll in the spring, probably in April, reach back out to families and say, hey, you've got a 10th grader, they requested honors chem, they requested honors English and this advanced math. We recommend they take it in this block, they'd be a good fit. So there'll be like an invite component to tie into the STEM block, but then also at the same time, a survey for people that we might miss that want to sign their kid up, you can sign up that way. So like within there, that you're just getting individual courses you signed up for in kind of a packaged format. So all you have to do right now is just, again, request the courses you would normally request. and then we'll kind of find you and give you that opportunity in April before we build it and spin it.
Okay. Thank you.
Wow, as I'm sitting here, I realized, Beth, did you, because you weren't here, Kettle Moraine was a school we went and visited. Do you know
think
all
I
about
heard,
this?
I don't know all about
Okay.
that by a long shot.
There was a group of administrators, teachers, there were a couple
They
board
took
members.
a field trip to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yes, John had been before. They do like an open house every year to kind of see what they're doing that's so different. And they had 4 different communities and I'm trying to remember which one they didn't have. STEM, global arts,
They had they had those, and then they had
They had
the
one-
traditional high school.
the traditional high
Yep,
school,
was
that's
the 4.
right. That's right. So anyway, you got to really see how their kids went through the system. And one of the things that, again, I know you all know this, I'm not a teacher, but one of the things was being there, you felt like you did get locked into a track of some sort. And so it's really great to hear how, we're trying to.
We've thought a lot through that.
Yeah,
And
I mean, this
we really
is-
talked a lot, from that visit. But, what I appreciate, so much is where we're at, but I also really love the idea, and Jesse and I have talked about this many times, and Joe, that, how do we make sure our kids maybe that have struggled and find that, we're also going after that. I felt like, the Kettle Moraine experience was awesome, but I don't know it found a place maybe for, the kids that haven't found their way yet. And so, now we're trying to tackle the project-based learning and integration in with that. And we've got some great professional development, I think, that we're working on through the Buck Institute, which is really a globally known for project-based learning, training. So we're definitely taking what we've seen, but making it fit TCAPS, not a model that we've just said, okay, we haven't bought a model, we haven't done that, we're really building it to fit our community. And so I think it's going really, really well that way.
Right, and just, sorry, go ahead.
Quick question, where do you do things like industrial arts?
So we have a career and tech center that
But
is.
is that part, can you be super duper in the wind ensemble
Yes.
and yet also be a super duper welder? Of all things.
Yep.
If you
Yes,
don't
and
burn
we
your
have kids,
fingers.
and
We
we
have a
have
couple.
kids that do that. We have kids who take 0-hour jazz band and a class, and then we'll, go over to CTC for half the day and come back and jump into wind ensemble 6
Yeah.
hours.
And one of the ways we do that is 7 or 8 years ago, you could be a West student and you might go to career tech in the morning or you might go in the afternoon. And what we did is we ended up streamlining those. So all of our career tech students, except a few in MTA, go in the afternoon. But then all of our music and a lot of those things run in the morning, so they can get it before they go. Because they can get their English and math credit at Tech Center often, and then at Central, they flip it. So
The more
their kids are in the Tech
specialty-
Center in the morning and more.
special-
We have
things at
2
different
programs that
centers.
still run embedded in the high schools, which is business and the STEM tech area. So those 2 still run embedded in the high school where students do not have to leave and can still take the classes.
But the career center is just on Parsons, so we're fortunate. It's not a long ways, but phenomenal programs. I don't remember how
They
many.
can go right by the
21.
cemetery.
21,
Yeah.
21 different programs at the Career Tech Center.
Yeah, we
And-
both send about 200 students
I was
from
gonna
each of
say,
our high
your
schools.
numbers are up, I know. you
Yeah,
mentioned.
and so John and I talked a little bit about like where career tech starts at 11th grade for the most part. Every now and then we have a sophomore that it's a right fit for, but like the general rule is 11th grade is when they're able. There's a lot of reasons why. Some of it is maturity, right? Some of them are working with like torches and like there's safety stuff. Some of it is kids haven't figured out at 14 that they know that's the pathway they want to go down and spend half their day doing that, right? So there's some development they wait for. And we've had some conversations around like if we're sending, I'm at like over 230 students every day go over there. Where are those kids as 9th and 10th graders and how are we meeting their academic needs then? And that's kind of where this TIE program sort of came to life out of. Is how do we maybe look at doing some of that program that our teachers are really good at differently and providing them some space and some time to sort of bridge that for those kids.
As well as taking a look at some of our math opportunities, like that, the Algebra 1 applied in that way, and then maybe looking at geometry next year. And there could be a seamless opportunity going through, career from that standpoint. So, we're taking that first step with the applied algebra next year is our goal, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, just super exciting. I mean, I remember sitting down with you guys after and us all kind of saying, well, we really like this, but we didn't like this, or we want to do more of this. And it just sounds like the meeting of the minds to create this is pretty cool. So thank you. And thanks for being here to share with us. It's pretty exciting. So thanks, you guys. You have anything else?
It'd be interesting to get a hold of some of the newspaper people and have them perhaps follow one of the students going through some of this.
Oh, I got ideas
shortly
on that too, don't worry.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially because no one else is doing it, right? Like, we
Yeah.
always try to say, how do
For
we differentiate
enrollments.
ourselves as TCAPs? Because
I laughed at that when Ben Berger, assistant principal at Central High School, he's on the board now for the Secondary School Principals Association, has been talking at some of this, and they're kind of like, wow, there's nobody else doing that, you know, and so
Yeah,
Ben's come back really excited,
Toot, toot.
you know, to show some of that of what we're trying to do with, you know, the idea of kids be able to get multiple credits, you know, in that kind of area, so Ben's all fired up, I know staff's all fired up, so really some neat things.
good, and I see we have a bunch of kids out there here listening, some cool stuff, I mean, right, guys? So, yeah, good. Shake your heads, that's right, that's good. Okay, so we will move on to our third informational item, which is strategic plan updates.
All right, I'm just gonna take us on a little journey, so just for our new members, just what kind of where we've been. So after the strategic plan was finalized in late summer, we started the work of looking at the goals that were established by that team. And then in the fall, we worked with our administrative team, our principals, to kind of narrow that focus to some objectives within the goals. We quickly then moved to phases of kind of rolling this out over the next 3 years. And the first phase is primarily our team. And when I looked around and started saying, well, where are some of the teams that we're going to kind of work this through, the teams that are closest to the work, we quickly realized that we needed to kind of establish or reestablish some teams that hadn't been functioning, or we needed to have them kind of functioning again after COVID. And so these are the teams that have been established since that time. So everything that's in bold here has someone from our team, curriculum and instruction, who is chairing this team or co-chairing the team. And then the other teams that are listed there are another department. So finance and operations, emergency operations team, and then our communications and marketing team. So as you can see, the bulk of those are our team. The next slide kind of talks a little bit about what we've done since then, which is establish clear purpose, try to seek volunteers for these teams. And we're still working on that because some of these teams, we don't feel like we have enough of a diverse representation from across the district. We've defined who the chairs are, have a consistent agenda structure, and we have or will be having initial meetings with all of these teams in January and February. Some of the in-progress work is just an alignment, a more clear alignment to the strategic goals and objectives based on the feedback that we receive from principals. And this is going to allow us then to really work across teams, because some of these don't fit neatly into one team. It might be we're focusing on a bullying and harassment goal, or we're focusing on a mental health or curricular, social emotional curricular focus. And so we want to make sure that we are getting feedback from the people closest to the work, but also aligning that work across teams so that we're not being duplicative, any redundancies that are happening. And then the last one is really, what is the data that we're using and the feedback loops that we're going to continue to use? So for instance, this past week, we met with principals and looked at perception data. So our fall perception data is done by building, and we looked at the building and as a district to try to look for some themes that we saw across the district as areas of improvement. The principals are then going to go back this month between now and February when we meet, and they're going to start looking at their parent and staff data as well, their perception data, come back with themes, and then we're going to share that feedback with our culture and climate team across the district to kind of make some recommendations on what does that look like to address, let's just say, respect across the district. To make some recommendations that most likely will probably also filter into our professional learning team, which is about feedback on what is the professional development that we most need in the district, what does that look like? And then really the focus is, I love John's mantra of really focusing from a district of schools to a school district, so how are we rowing in the same direction with some of the recommendations that are happening, so that it's not one building doing it, that we're coordinating efforts across the district. What's really exciting about some of these teams is we have, for instance, on the culture and climate team, we have representation from HR as well. So kind of their focus and sub-focus is how do we, in this gold standard way, think about onboarding new employees? Like, what does that look like across the district for every employee group? So it's really exciting to have them on there, not just, teacher, administrator, and other employee groups, but also folks from there. So I think we'll end up breaking up into some subcommittees with some of these teams. But the work is rolling, and it's really exciting to see it kind of coming together and having that strategic plan as a North Star to kind of guide our work. So there'll be definitely more updates from these teams and the work and feedback. I think Dr. Van Wagner's looking at March, I think you said, to try to kind of update on the progress of these teams. Yep. To the full board. Questions I can answer.
Well, as an ignorant person,
Pardon me?
as an ignorant person on all this business,
Yeah.
I definitely need to have some remedial time.
Okay. Happy to do that. Happy to
you.
do that. Yes.
Yes. It's a lot. I finished 4-year term, and we hadn't had a strategic plan in place for 13 years prior to this. Is that right?
It's been a while.
Approximately,
I've
give
never
or
exactly
take.
got my timing on all that done, but.
I mean, a real, true
been a while.
working strategic plan. No? Ooh, I see some. No?
I probably wasn't around, but
We had a strategic plan, but it's been, I would have thought more like 8,
Okay,
but
I don't know.
let's be honest, it could have been 13. It all
It's been
just
a
sort of
while.
blends.
And it kind of was in the background. It wasn't in the forefront of kind of how decisions are being made. And so I know that our last board said, we really want a North Star. We want to have goals laid out so that we know where we're going and what we want to do. So it's really great to hear, and it keeps being brought up in like lots of meetings of strategic plan and strategic plan, so it's actually working and being utilized on a day-to-day basis in lots of decisions. But I'm happy to sort of sit down with you and walk through what that process looked like and how we ended up with our 12 goals and how the leadership team has kind of laid out, how do you take 12 goals and, streamline them into priorities and things like that. But I'm happy to do that.
And I'm happy to follow up after that part, so you can see it from here, down to kind of where we are right now with that. So it's exciting. It does allow us to say yes to things that are aligned to that and say no to things, or no, not yet, to things that maybe aren't. So
You're on track.
it does. So like I said, of the phase 1, 5 of the 6 school areas are on our team. So the other teams that were listed there, they're in the phase 2 and 3. Not that they're not working on stuff now, but I mean, in terms of their goals coming to completion, they're not going to be until the next 2 phases, which are over the next 3 years. So I'll be excited to report out the work. It's already really exciting and energizing work that's happening, and happy to see that coming to fruition.
Good. And not the next shiny thing, right? It was really
That's right.
that's right, chasing the shiny thing, so. Okay, thank you, Kristen. Okay, and then last is our celebrations and successes.
okay, well, this is the best part of the meeting. So this actually is just a highlight of our project-based learning session that we had with the SMT students at West Senior High and the APCSP kids with the
Can you tell the acronyms?
Arduino project. So PBL is project-based learning, APC is computer science principles, SMT is Simatech. Did I hit them all?
AP is advanced placement.
AP advanced placement, okay. Arduino, that's actually Word, so there's no explaining to that. But this was one of their first attempts to actually work, and we had business and community members come in to actually review the project-based learning, which was designed around basically the pandemic and looking at how to track.
That's my kid.
I didn't know that.
Surprise! Brady. Aw.
So they actually worked to identify and build basically a small app that was really designed around tracking a pandemic and kind of what happens during a pandemic. So they brought in like epidemiologists and spoke to the students, and then looked at their innovations of how they could actually develop something to help support that. So that was a celebration for Simatech. And we had Michigan Tech come in and do a Arduino project with them that was kind of integrated with art. So that was a really cool project we had.
So cool,
Yeah.
very cool.
So if you want to move to the next slide, I believe it's really looking at across all K-8 buildings, there has been a focus on developing a comprehensive, what we call PBIS system, or Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. So part of the work that has been done across the board has been to focus really on how do we ensure that kids have that sense of belonging, of safety, that it is an inclusionary setting for all students. And in that work, we spent time with adults really talking about what are the expectations that we have for kids, but also for each other. And so buildings have spent quite a bit of time this first semester just really grounding themselves on what do we value, what is important, what makes being a Seahawk special, right? What makes being a Blair Bobcat a Blair Bobcat. And the adults have been really trying to help solidify that vision for each building. The other thing that they're really working on is developing those common expectations and then also having really common responses to behavior that are both corrective but also affirming. So how are we being really intentional in recognizing kids that are engaging in pro-social, pro-academic behavior? What are the adults across the board doing to help reinforce those concepts? And then when kids blow it, which we know they're going to, how are we responding to them in a way that is corrective and restorative? And the other thing to keep in mind about the whole PBIS support system is that it's meant to be all-encompassing. So we're talking about how are we supporting the social and emotional learning of kids through our what we call our SEL curriculum. There's a heavy emphasis on restorative practice across K-12. So all students have that opportunity, again, when they've blown it, right? Like human beings sometimes blow it, and we need to be able to figure out ways to help kids make it right, which is really what the basis of that restorative practice is. And then collaborative and proactive solutions is really an emphasis at our Tier 2 and Tier 3 level. And that's really helping kids who are struggling behaviorally or with challenging behaviors to collaborate with them and kind of draw them in and help us figure out what those solutions could be in a proactive way. So really it's a very intentional effort across all buildings to make sure that we have systems in place to meet those non-academic needs. Our fidelity check is that we're taking the MDE tiered fidelity check and we're just making sure that each one of the components of what MDE has set forward for a robust PBIS system is actually in place. So part of my job has been to visit each building and to do a quick internal audit, just a gut check. Where do you think you're at with each one of these layers? And what's pretty cool is how excited buildings are to share out the work that they've been doing. We based a lot of the initial kind of framework on some of the work that was done at Heights and at Blair, and really looked at Heights in particular has been incredibly intentional about really establishing that sense of belonging. And so you'll see that they also were highlighted in the Record Eagle. But we have like incredible things happening all over the district related to PBIS. And so I would just encourage you to, if you have an opportunity and you're in a elementary or middle school building, just to ask the principal, hey, I heard you're working on your positive behavior support plan. Can you tell me what that looks like? And people are enthusiastically ready to share out, oh yeah, we've got this happening, or we've got this happening. We've got our mystery motivators, or we've got, Andy Phillips has a YouTube station that's phenomenal, where he posts like, how do you act on the playground?
Roar, isn't it
So-
the
oh,
roar?
The roar model, the roar model, yep. So it's
Yeah.
it's been a really unifying experience, I would say, for staff and hopefully ultimately for kids.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Love to hear all that. Good stuff. So good.
And the last one, Beth actually came and visited our robotics kids at both sites. We had a good time. She brought cookies, so the kids were super
Oh.
excited to have her anytime, right? If you bring cookies.
They were
But,
doing well on their own.
Yes.
The parents were great.
Yes, so, she got to experience like the parent and mentor support that comes in on Saturday for both teams on both sides of town. And, we were actually at Central and we got to experience the aha moment when a student, so that platform in the center in that middle picture actually tips depending on, you know, what robot you have on there, and you have to actually balance with 2 other robots on there. And so the programming required behind it requires your robot to keep self-balancing, right, if another robot comes on. So we happened to walk in and we were there maybe 5 minutes, Beth, maybe, and the kid's like, oh my God, I got it. And so we got to, you know, see that aha moment, which is so great. But if you have anything to add about your visit and what you were able to see at both West and Central?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know. And this was a Saturday morning when in my household, when I was growing up, that was called Cartoon Saturday Morning. And these guys were here. So times have changed.
Yeah,
That
6-week
was
build
good.
season, so they build out those robots that compete in 6 weeks. And
Right.
so right now they're in week 4.
This was week 2.
That was week 2.
So 6-week build out. When do
6-week
they
build
actually?
season, the first competition.
After 6
It's
weeks?
like
After 6
March
weeks.
Madness,
Got it.
Erica.
Okay.
I don't know if that rings a bell with y'all
Yes.
up here,
Yep.
but where I came from, March Madness, we knew what that was.
Oh, yeah.
Both
Okay.
teams are headed to Kelvin for their first event, and I should know the dates off the top of my head, but I do not. So that's exciting that they'll both be in the same place for both events. Second event is home in TC at Central.
Yep.
So excited to always host first events. We were the first district event in Michigan, in Traverse City, to host a first robotics. So it's a big deal in Traverse City.
Was. And how many years ago was that?
Oh, that would be 13 years ago now.
Wow.
So when they
That's
moved
cool.
to district, we were the very first event.
That was 2011 when they started, was that?
Well, they started
Tournament.
the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have some
89
homework
is
to
when
do,
we
I don't
first
know.
started, but.
Okay.
That's cool. That's good. Well, good. All great things to celebrate here at TCAP. So thanks for everybody for bringing those forward. Good stuff. Anything else? Anybody?
Can I? I went to a concert a couple nights ago.
Metallica? Did you?
No, not interested. So not interested. No, I went to one for, if I get his name right, Tom Stokes?
Oh, yeah.
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 And it was so impressive. These were young men in a variety of different choral ensembles, basically, and they were good. They were really good. And to see that, and it's gone over years. It wasn't like this semester, 3. So the work of that group was impressive.
Yeah, Tom was a kind of a forerunner in music, in the choral.
Well, a mentor, I think, in a lot of respects for a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
So that was, I think that's a celebration.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of great music stuff. I had the chance to go down to DeVos Place and see our West High School Wind Ensemble. I know also, I've had some people reach out to me from other districts, actually, that Eric Wangeman led a choir group there as well.
One of the All-State.
Yeah, one of the all-state choir groups, and they just couldn't stop talking about what a great experience their kids had working with him. And so at our board meeting, we're actually going to have a recognition and celebration of our music programs, so.
Very good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. So, and we, as board members, I speak for everybody, but love to be invited to that. Sometimes there's so much going on, you don't know what's going where. So I really appreciated the invite on the wind ensemble here in Traverse City.
Send off, yeah.
Yeah, the send off. So that was really cool. So, okay, well, if that is all, then our next curriculum committee meeting is Monday, February 27th here in this room. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. So thanks, everybody.